Clash Royale has over 40 evolutions now, but not all of them were a good idea. Some are so useless that upgrading them is basically throwing shards in the trash. So today we're counting down 10 evolutions that you should never upgrade. Number 10. Royal Hogs. The Royal Hogs Evo is one of those evolutions that sounds incredible on paper, but falls completely flat in actual gameplay. You want it. The concept is genuinely very cool. Hogs that fly through the air, untouchable by ground troops. You might expect them to be nearly impossible to counter since no ground troops can hit them while they're soaring. But here's the reality check. Once you reach higher trophies and start facing competent players, absolutely no one gives them a chance to shine. Players immediately use their spells or drop buildings to yank them out of the sky instantly, turning your flying menace into regular pigs that just die like any other ground troop.
No! The ARCTO spirit grounded them all, defeating the whole point of the evolution!
Even in the popular Royal Recruit Hogs deck that dominated for a brief moment, you'd be way better off using your previous evolution slot on literally any other card that provides guaranteed value. And here's the biggest problem. Being just a win condition means the versatility of Royal Hogs is extremely low, forcing you to build very specific decks around them. You can't just slot them into any deck and expect success. They demand commitment, and frankly, they're just not worth it. Number 9. Musketeer. Now, Musketeer Evo is honestly not too bad compared to the others on this list. That's exactly why it's only sitting at number 9. It's not completely worthless. It's actually used at top ladder by skilled players to snipe out annoying cards like dart goblins and firecrackers, and when played absolutely perfectly, it does this job amazingly well. The problem here is that keyword, perfectly. You need to time it precisely down to the frame, count the elixir like a calculator, predict your opponent's plays, and essentially turn this casual mobile game into a full-time job just to make it work consistently. Sure, the decks are quite widespread and you can technically put Musketeer in many different deck combos, but then comes the massive elephant in the room. Heroic Musketeer exists now. I mean, think about it, a whole tower troop that gives you the ability for just 3 elixir, and you still get to keep a full evolution slot open in your deck for something better. If you unlock the heroic version, there's absolutely zero reason to ever play the evolution anymore. The Evo Musketeer will soon be completely dead and forgotten, or it'll desperately need to be reworked to make it remotely interesting again. Just don't waste your shards here. Unlike wasting your time on mastering the Evo Musk, you should use your time on finding the best, and sometimes freaky, tips for Clash Royale by subscribing to our channel. Number 8. Barbarians. Barbarians still struggle painfully to find their place in homemade decks that aren't copied from the pros. Other than Lava Hound and Royal Giant decks, they rarely sit comfortably anywhere in the meta. Sure, they're decent at chopping down tanks on defense, and I get it, they seem very exciting to unlock as one of your early evolutions. The rage effect looks incredibly cool, the extra speed seems powerful, but don't get too excited and waste your shards, because very soon you'll realize that they rarely provide any more actual value than regular barbarians do. There are so many other evolutions that bait out crucial spells or provide significantly much more value on both defense and offense. In the current meta, and this might sound crazy, but the Barbarian Hut is probably even better than Evo Barbarians, if you ask me. That is how underwhelming this evolution is. Save your precious shards, this is absolutely not the Evo you wish to unlock early on. Number 7. The Wizard. The Wizard evolution was actually one of the first truly unique evolutions that tried something different. It wasn't ridiculously broken on launch like most Evos, and the shield mechanic it introduced genuinely helped clean up a lot of Wizard's historical weaknesses, mainly dying instantly to fireball zap combos. Wizard slowly made its way back into the meta after years of being forgotten, just to fall right back off the cliff again a few months later. People gradually realized that you need to shape entire decks specifically around Wizard to make the evolution work, and the deck combos you can actually try become incredibly limited. Apart from occasionally baiting out spells, it provides almost no additional tangible value to your deck anymore compared to just using the regular Wizard. At early game especially, this is probably an evolution you shouldn't even be thinking about investing your hard-earned shards on. Also, and this is crucial since it's a rare card type, upgrading the wizard is significantly much slower than upgrading common card evolutions, making it an even worse trade-off for your time and resources. Number 6. Royal Giant. Royal Giant is another win condition that's been through its own dramatic ups and downs throughout Clash Royale's history. At certain points in the meta, it genuinely became the strongest, most oppressive win condition in the entire game. But now, there's just way too many hard counters and defensive options to easily get rid of it before it does meaningful damage. Being both a win condition and costing a hefty 6 elixir means it finds a comfortable place in very few viable decks. The evolution adds almost no additional value when facing building-heavy decks, and it's no longer threatening enough to force your opponent into making massive defensive mistakes. It gets hard countered by any tank killer card, and gets shut down significantly by way cheaper deck archetypes like Hyperbait and Logbait that cost half the elixir. And here's my personal philosophy: you really shouldn't be restricting yourself to playing only one singular win condition for your entire Clash Royale career. Use your valuable shards on cards that provide much more versatile value and fit comfortably in a significantly wider variety of decks. Number 5. Goblin Cage. Goblin Cage is another incredibly tempting evolution to unlock, especially when you first see it in action. The ability to grab and completely shred down threatening cards like Mega Knights and P.E.K.K.A.s seems cool and very satisfying to watch. But if you've actually played with it extensively before, you'll already know how disappointingly little value you actually get for wasting an entire precious evolution slot on this gimmick. Most experienced opponents know exactly not to play directly into your Goblin Cage, and they'll simply force you to waste it on absolutely nothing of value. Or they'll bait it out with cheap troops, and it gets easily overwhelmed and countered by big, coordinated pushes with multiple troops. And it ends up providing almost no realistic practical value whatsoever against air-focused decks, which are everywhere in the current meta. There are simply not many meta decks that naturally accommodate for Goblin Cage in their strategy, making the evolution slot feel more optional and wasteful. A significant rework focusing on the Goblin's brawler abilities could potentially help the Evo regain its lost popularity significantly, but meanwhile, the pathetically low value it provides just doesn't fairly compensate for the shards and resources you'd invest by unlocking and upgrading it. Number 4. Bats. Evolution Bats was one of those early evolutions that notably wasn't completely broken on release, which should have been our first red flag. When evolutions were still fresh and new to the game, they seemed quite useful and promising, providing decent value on defense and setting up counter pushes effectively. But over the years, they've received quite a few substantial nerfs, and they've been hit devastatingly hard by the releases of other, far superior evolutions that completely overshadow them. Bats themselves find their comfortable place in very few competitive decks now, having been largely replaced by either the far superior Dark Goblin or the more reliable minions. They're countered way too easily by any spell in the game, they're not exciting or fun to use, and they're simply not worth investing your limited resources into anymore. The actual value they provide is almost identical to regular bats, so why waste an evolution slot on them? They can mostly find their spot in hyper bait decks and other ultra cheap cycle decks that need every elixir advantage they can get. From a purely practical competitive aspect, they aren't good enough to consistently push your trophies higher. And you'll find them absolutely nowhere at top ladder anymore. Number 3. Hunter. Hunter is a very interesting and potentially troll-worthy evolution that looked amazing in the reveal trailer. Earlier in its lifespan, it could keep troops completely frozen and locked down until they died, which was later nerfed significantly and repeatedly. It never really hit the meta explosively like everyone expected and predicted it would. The problem, no one wanted to commit precious resources to a 4 elixir epic card they had never consistently used in their decks before. Just after launch, barely 10% of top players were actually using it regularly, which was already a terrible sign for its viability. It found its natural home primarily in YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels as clickbait content, but in actual practical competitive games, it was extremely rare to encounter. The viable decks you can build around Hunter are very limited and restrictive as well. If you don't already play Hunter extremely well and have it integrated into your playstyle, this is absolutely not the evolution you wish to unlock with your hard-earned shards. Number 2. Bomber. The Bomber started off its evolutionary journey as an extremely broken, absolutely overpowered card that could deal damage to towers on every single bounce. Being just a cheap 2 elixir card, it very quickly entered literally every single deck that existed in the meta for a brief, glorious moment. It was painfully evident to everyone that it would soon be receiving massive game-changing nerfs from Supercell. And sure enough, now it can only hit each individual target once, a major, devastating nerf to the entire gimmick that made it special. It's basically just become a splash damage dealer with a slightly longer range than normal, and it gets very easily countered by almost every single card in the entire game without breaking a sweat. Although you technically can build different creative decks around Bomber if you really want to, why would you even bother? There are literally tons of objectively better cards to play that perform significantly better on both defense and offense. Although it remains an exciting and genuinely fun evolution to play around with casually, the actual competitive value addition is almost completely negligible. Especially in today's meta where absolutely every player is carrying arrows or some other cheap spell, Bomber barely survives long enough to even land a single meaningful hit on anything important. Number 1. Goblin Drill. And here we are, the number 1 worst evolution you could possibly waste your shards on. The Evo Goblin Drill was hands down the strangest, most disappointing evolution launch to happen in all of 2025. It was released alongside the Goblin Giant evolution and was absolutely immensely broken at its initial launch. An evolution that was extremely easy to play, even for beginners, and when combined strategically with other cheaper win conditions, it truly reshaped the entire meta landscape for a brief moment. But the glory days didn't last long. It was very soon met with a brutal number of heavy-handed nerfs and would completely exit the meta within just a few months, becoming almost fully forgotten by the competitive community. At top ladder right now, almost literally no one plays Evo Drill anymore. There was even a point where the evolution was providing objectively lower value than the regular non-evolved card, which is absolutely embarrassing for an evolution. It quite literally devolved the card. It has been reworked recently by the development team to make it slightly stronger and more viable again, but as of right now, this card absolutely takes the cake for being the single worst, most disappointing evolution you could possibly unlock with your precious evolution shards. Stay far, far away from this one. I don't even think it's allowed in your school zones anymore. Like the Goblin Drill, every card was once at its peak. Click this video to see every card at its absolute peak. I promise you won't regret it, and I'll see you there.